So this is the Rider-Waite. This is my first tarot deck, and I thought I would do sort of a special, sort of non-review um, video about this deck and what it means to me. So there's a couple things that this deck really does for me. It's the first one I sort of learned from. I used it to try to, sort out things in my life, but also, read other people's fortunes and just try to learn the tarot. And it's been through a bunch of moves, and you can see where the sun has bleached the packet because I used to set it in my window when I was a teenager. And so my mother bought this deck for me. I think it was $12. It was under the glass counter at either Walden Books or B. Dalton Books. And she had told me she had a tarot deck when she was growing up. But I don't know where it is, and she's never shown it to me. She must have lost it or gave it to someone. But, so I was really, sort of intrigued by the tarot and all the cards, and the cards were so confusing. They were just pictures, some had words. I didn't understand it, so this is the deck I learned most everything I know from for the basic stuff. And this is the essential deck if you are starting off with tarot. Most decks are derivatives of this deck, and that it's the deck that most people think of when they think of tarot. You can get it, it's fairly inexpensive, there's different varieties of it. This one has I think it had 2 extra cards with it. It had this one and then maybe a title card, but this is all I have that's left. The little book, I've gotten it wet before. I've had to dry it. This is the essential, if you get the Author E. Waite book on the tarot, it's essentially the same thing, and it's usually around $10. Published by U.S. Games. It's like a big version of the little white book. But this is the one. This, I think, let's see, I was 12 when this deck was new, so when did I buy it? Or when was it bought? Probably the early 90s. Maybe 91, I think. It says on the back, it's 1971, that's the copyright. But I don't know about when it actually... Yeah, just 1971. But in the booklet it has... maybe it's the 40th printing. That's what it looks like. 40, 39, 38, 37, 36. That's usually what it means. We have an ISBN there. Yeah, the key to the tarot, it says it's excerpted from that. And I have the book. The book is pretty much useless if you have this book. But this is from U.S. Games, and my cards are, if you look at the sides of them, they look a little stained and dirty, just from handling them. They still have a good feel to them. I haven't ripped any, torn any, messed any up. I've been really careful with them, and yeah, yesterday when I was pulling these apart to compare them to the Universal Tarot, I don't think this deck likes to be sorted where cards are pulled out of it. It likes to be so random, so I will have to shuffle it. I shuffle my decks sort of strange, because I'm really particular about the artwork, and I don't want to damage my cards, I don't want to bend them. So typically I just do a sort of I loosen the cards up and I drop them in where they land, and just keep doing that over and over again. Eventually they get very loose. This is 78 cards, it's kind of hard to shuffle these. 52 cards, it's hard enough, but 78, or maybe even if you have a deck with 90, that's kind of hard. So I usually drop the cards in like this. making sure I don't force them because I don't want to tear the paper or make the edges sort of messed up. So I usually just do it, I keep dropping, and then I'll cut the deck and keep doing it again and again and again. See how I've shuffled it. I'll cut it, maybe just keep cutting it like this. That's how particular I am when I shuffle my cards. I just, maybe it's a little strange, but I prefer it this way because I don't want to mess them up. You know, I want to keep my cards for, forever. And I want to keep them useful, even though you can easily buy this deck. Again, this is my deck. This is my first deck, so it's pretty special to me. And it's always been somewhere on my bookshelf, waiting for me to touch it again. And yeah, the back of the card it's not very fancy at all, this plaid. I wish it was something different, but this is what I mean, it's definitely reversible, and they're kind of really fairly plain. But yeah, this is my deck that I grew up with, and I haven't written on it. I haven't done anything, bad to the cards. I think we've always been together. I've never handed them. One of the things when I do, if I do a reading for someone, I'll shuffle the cards. I don't let them shuffle them because I'm particular about cards being shuffled. I may have them cut the deck a few times just to kind of make it more in tune with them. Have them do it a couple times or so. Or maybe I'll say, split the deck and choose that card that you are there, and then I'll work from that. But I do want them to touch the deck, and so I typically tell them just to focus and feel energy from the top of their head, move down their arms, their shoulders, their arms, into their hands as they touch the deck to kind of get it in tune with them. And then they can cut it, and I'll do the rest. So there's minimal involvement with that person. It's just I want them to touch it, and tarot reading should be a really personal thing, so if I cut the deck and I'm really focusing on this card is, maybe it's something right now that you want answered, and I get the Four of Pentacles, and then we talk about that a little bit, and then I'm like, well, let's choose another card, and we get the King of Cups, and so I just lay them out. Sometimes in no particular order, sometimes it answers questions. I typically don't do a Celtic cross or anything like that. It's too formal, and I like to be rather informal and address things. If someone wants questions answered, or they want just a suggestion of what they should do, I always say, if the cards tell you one thing and you don't want to do it, well then, don't do it. If you're trying to make a decision, the cards told you, and they helped you figure something out. And that's the whole way of holistic reading. The cards aren't miraculous things. They just will help you sort things out, to make you think about maybe the opposites or the different avenues that you could choose, and then, we talk again, and we got a powerful card here, the Lovers, and maybe whatever that means to the person, maybe I could tell you what it means, but I want to see what the person thinks, and sometimes they think completely, oh, but no, this is what the card means, and they're probably the best reading I ever did was when it was for a former coworker, and she just wanted to know what the card said, and so it looked like there was going to be a huge decision in her life later that year, and it turns out she was getting married. She was already engaged. She was going to get married, but she had told no one about that. And she was actually at a crossroads in her life where she wasn't sure if she wanted to be with this guy, because things were happening in her life, and his health was sort of, not the best. He had nerve issues, and so she decided that, yeah, she was going to marry him, and I think they have 2 children now, which is nice. So, that's a very simple interpretation of things, but she was probably going to leave him at some point, but she was still open. She had not made up her mind, and it was nice. It was a nice reading. We sat down, we talked about tarot, and then we did a quick reading, and then she wanted some more answers, and so I helped her with that. And it was fun. It wasn't some mystical experience, and it didn't force her to do anything. It kind of made her reflect. That holistic approach is what I think is so important. But anyway, so this is my special deck, my first deck in my beat up box that I really like, and it's the deck that most decks are compared to because of the 4 suits and the major arcana, and a lot of them, this is based on a lot of work. This deck, and you think of the Crowley-Thoth deck as 2 almost polar opposites, sort of, in the tarot world, where one deck follows one deck follows the other. But this is the basic one.